Hey, what is up, guys? I have been spending quite a bit of time lately painting lures, and I want to show you a cool pattern I came up with recently. I'm going to be painting a chrome pumpkin seed pattern on a KVD J300 jerkbait. And basically, I want to show you guys how I do the color pattern, and then we're going to take it fishing and see if anything wants to bite it. So I'm starting out with some transparent sunrise yellow from Createx, and I'm going to do 3 coats of that down the belly of the lure. And between each coat, I'm also heat setting the paint with the heat gun, just giving it a little shot with the heat gun to heat set it. That's really important when you're airbrushing lures, so you don't scratch or smudge your paint. And so I am going to edit a lot of that out because it's pretty redundant, but just know that I'm doing that between every step. So now I'm bringing in some opaque yellow, and basically what I'm trying to do is highlight up around the throat area and the front of the belly. And if you look at a pumpkin seed, they definitely are brighter with that golden yellow up around the throat and the front of the belly. Also, you can see I have masked off the bill and the hook eyelets to keep those nice and clean during the paint process. Alright, so now we're moving on to some opaque red and some fluorescent orange, and I actually mix these two 50-50, and this is one of my favorite colors to use up around the throat and on the gills of my lures. It gives them a nice fluorescent pop. And so right here I'm just laying a little bit of that down in the throat and gill area. Okay, now we're moving on to the back, and I'm going to start with some sap green hue from Golden, and basically I'm going to work that in on the back and all the way down to about where you see the lateral line on the lure. I am trying to leave a little bit of chrome, and because I want a little bit of flash to this lure when it's done. And this is a little bit of an exercise in blind faith. You'll know that if you've ever done any airbrushing on lures, because everything kind of hazes out sometimes, especially when you're doing multiple layers of paint. And you just got to know that when you do that final coat of clear epoxy, it's just going to bring everything out and make it pop again. So I'm going to lay 3 coats of that sap green hue down the back, and then we're actually going to pull out some brown and go over the top of the green. Alright, so now I have my sepia brown from Golden, and I'm going to go right over that green. And by the time I'm done, basically all the green's going to be gone. But doing the 2 colors together is going to build more depth to the paint job, and some of that green is going to come through once you do the clear coat epoxy at the end. And I did do a little shading with the sap green hue as well on the face and gill plate of the lure, so there is a little green there laid down as well. And there's our sepia all done, and we're going to move on to some detailing now. Alright, so now I have some burnt sienna, and we're going to be using a stencil here from Anarchy Stencils, and I'm going to use that to put some modeling on the front belly of the lure. And this burnt sienna actually looks kind of orange when you lay it down over these colors here. So you can see that's on the belly. Now I'm going to do the same thing with the burnt sienna down the back of the lure, right over top of that sepia. I'm going to put down 2 coats of the burnt sienna, and I'm just going to give it a minute to dry in between coats. You have to be really careful with using the heat gun to heat set when you're using these thin plastic stencils, because you can melt them pretty quick. So when I'm using these, usually I'll just give them a minute to dry in between coats. But there's our burnt sienna, and now we're going to move on to some teal from Golden, and we're going to lay in some blue modeling over top of the burnt sienna. There's our blue modeling down, and now we're going to go ahead and do some banding. There is some banding in the pumpkin seed pattern as well. For this I'm going to use a heavy comb in some carbon black, and basically I'm going to use that comb to just lay in some vertical banding just above the lateral line. And actually these bands turned out a little darker than I wanted to, but it's okay because I'm going to come back in with some sepia and kind of mute everything out at the end and make it look more natural. quick heat set, and there's our bands. So now I'm gonna pull out the teal again, and we're gonna do that cool blue pumpkin seed pattern on the gill plates here. For that, I'm gonna use a gill and stripe wheel that I got from Insane Custom Stencils, and they basically have that pumpkin seed gill pattern all laid out on there. So I'm just laying that down with some teal. Just a quick heat set, because again, that's a thin plastic stencil. And there we go. Now that's pretty bright. I'm going to mute that out a little bit on the back edge of the gill with some carbon black right there. Looks a little more natural. And now I'm going to put in the ear flaps right behind the gill plate. That's a stencil I made myself for doing ear flaps. I'm just going to pull out some carbon black again, and we'll lay those in real quick. There's our ear flaps, and we are getting there. Just a few more steps and we'll be done here. Now this is a cool stencil. This is a stencil I made for doing pectoral fins, and this has worked out great. It's a double-sided stencil. Basically I pinched the jerkbait right in there like a taco, and gives you some nice symmetry on the fins. So I'm just using some opaque yellow from Createx, and I'm gonna have to do 3 coats here to get a nice base of a yellow fin down, because I'm going over some darker colors. And there it is. So you can see that doesn't look too realistic yet, but we're going to work on that. But we have a nice symmetrical pec fin in the same place on both sides. So now we're going to do some counter shading, try and bring some realism to those fins. And I'm going to start with some sepia, same color we used on the back. And I'm going to do some counter shading on the top of the fins to start. So I'm getting there, but that fin isn't looking quite like I want it yet. So we're going to bring in some of that red-orange color that we used up on the throat, and we're going to do a little more counter shading on the front and bottom of the fin. I really like how that fin turned out. I think that flame red and that sepia looks great over that yellow. So now we're just going to do a little red accent on the back of the ear flap. If you look at a pumpkin seed, they do have a little red accent there. So I'm just going to use the back of a small drill bit and just dab some opaque red on there, and that'll give us our little red accent. So our paint job is pretty much done there, guys. We just got to put some clear epoxy on it and take it fishing. Here's our pumpkin seed lure, all painted up. Got it tied on, some 25-pound braid. Again, this is a KVD jerkbait that we painted up. So, get a little bit of a late start this morning, but the water's got some nice color to it, and we're gonna see if we can catch a couple fish on this lure. It's about top speed for the duck boat here. She's not fast, but she's sexy. I don't know what happened to this pumpkin seed, but he's just kind of chilling on the surface here. Something's messed up with him. Yeah, he's not doing good. But there's a pumpkin seed. And here's my pumpkin seed. What do you think? Not bad. So far, it's my first time fishing a KVD. Seems like it fishes pretty good so far. Seems really similar to a Smithwick Rogue. I wouldn't say it casts as well as the pointer minnow. It's still my favorite in terms of castability, but seems like it has really good action. I like the split rings and the hooks are pretty heavy duty. I think I back myself up here a little bit. Got a little too close. So I'm thinking it might be a good bait for like the salmon fishing off the pier and stuff in the fall too. Just because the stock split rings and hooks will be able to handle those fish. So we hooked up here. I don't know what it is. It hit me pretty hard. Oh, nice northern. Nice big northern. Look at that. You like that pumpkin seed. Oh. Let's see if we can get the grippers on him here. I don't know. It looks like his mouth might be locked shut. There he is. Alright, she's in good shape. Pretty sure that's a nice spawned out female there. Come on, sister. She's a little tired, but I think she's good. Give her a little revival here.